Mariner finishes the best and he's got up the win. Scalacci wins the magnificent treble.
It will be the most emotion-charged Melbourne Cup reception in history.
Maybe he knows the mannerism.
They got very tight, but Northerly wins the Cox Plate.
Animo the stronger. He's fighting hard, gets him there. Now we go to Bloodspotted.
Is there a story from your early years or a situation that happened that just made you so determined?
Well, I've always hated to lose, no matter what it is. I think probably a little bit of it comes from having an older brother. You always strive to want to be as good as him, and inspired me to always want to do better. And then I suppose coming over to join the Freedman stable as a 16-year-old, they were always very ambitious and hard-working, and instilling a tough resilience into you. So I think probably that even fueled it even more.
Life in Perth, growing up, you've just mentioned your brother, very competitive, and you decided to follow him into the jockey ranks at 15. How easy or hard a decision was that as a teenager?
You know, my father and grandfather were both jockeys. Probably started riding horses when I was about 6 or 7, and I was probably riding track work when I was about 9 or 10. So,
oh, really? That young?
Yeah, I started at a pretty young age for me. At about 13 or 14, I realised my AFL career was going to be pretty short-lived at, you know, being pretty small. Here's a good chance to exploit my height, and, you know, I think enjoying and doing well at sport as a younger kid, and I loved, you know, being around animals and horses and riding horses from a young age. Being born into a racing family in WA opens a lot of doors for you as well. I got a good start into it and got a lot of opportunities and learnt pretty quickly.
With 66 winners in your first year in Perth, you know, you're far from the finished product. Who was advising you, and really what were you working on in those early days?
My brother was definitely the biggest influence on my career at that stage. Being a few years older, and, you know, he would give me pointers here and there, and a lot of the other top jockeys in Perth around the time, you'd be sort of watching them and learning all the time as well.
A couple of those old blokes like JJ Miller, they might have been tough to come up against if you were a 16-year-old boy.
Yeah, I was actually JJ Miller's valet as a young kid growing up in Perth. Some great influences there, Mark Sestich and Stephen Miller, my brother of course. Rod Kemp was someone I looked up to as well. So, you know, that was some very good jockeys coming out of Perth at that time.
How did the association with the Freedman stable start? Looking back on it now, that's very much life-changing for you.
Yeah, so my brother had came over to them a few years earlier than me, and he was only claiming 1.5 kilos at the time, and just found it a bit hard being away from Perth and going from doing really well to sort of starting off again. Got a bit homesick and came home, but it was his experience there that set the path for me, I suppose. A few years later that I came over with 2.5 kilos claim, so I had a little bit more appeal to some trainers, and just had enough experience in Perth at the time, riding for about just over 12 months, and the Freedmans were really just starting to get going as well.
Was there a moment when you were in Melbourne with the Freedmans that you went, I can do this, I can base myself here in Victoria and become one of the better riders? Is there a story or a moment or a win, a race, something like that that sort of stands out for you?
They had a few good older type, welter type horses that I ride. I think one was Surrealism, one particularly who I just strung a lot of wins together with and started to have regular success, but didn't happen straight away. I got lost a little bit when I first came here, and then they sent me off to the bush, got a bit more confidence, and then came back to town. I remember specifically on a Saturday at the Valley, and it was 2 favourites I was riding for them, and everyone in all the stable staff was saying, if you get beat on these, you might as well go straight back home, you know. So first one won, the second one missed a kick, and I just took runs where you just wouldn't take them, and it got up too. So I rode 2 winners, they both won, and I was away after that. In
Melbourne in the late 1980s, early 1990s, you still had riders like Brent Thompson and Harry White, these legends of the turf. What was it like sharing a jockey's room and watching those guys up close? As
a young kid, it was just a great grounding, and Greg Hall, Michael Clark were others as well, and great jockeys, great horsemen, super competitive, and I'd sit back and just try and take a little bit from each one of them and try and bring that into my riding. I always felt you had to be comfortable on the horse. I wasn't the best stylist, but the best thing you can have at any sport is being a great tactician and knowing what's going on around you, and I think the fact that I'd ridden horses from such a young age, so I had a good horse sense about me.
Work ethic, how much does that play a part of your achievement, but also working with the trainers and building those rapports and the relationships, so they go, oh, we'll throw this kid on?
Those days you were working mostly 7 days a week. Freedman's had me mucking out boxes in the morning before I'd ride track work, and I found myself just wanting to ride every day so I could get out of the stable work in the afternoon. So the more you rode, it was kind of felt like a bit like a day off to me back then.
Within that period of your apprenticeship, you had 18 Group 1s. That is also remarkable. Your first one was for a legend in Bart Cummings, Submariner. What do you recall from maybe how you got that ride and then about the day itself?
Yeah, well, Leon Corstens was in charge of Bart's stable at that time, and we were neighbours with the Freedman stables right next to Bart's stable. So Leon, I think, played a big part of me probably getting that ride. And we went on to have a lot of success together when Leon became a trainer as well. I remember the race vividly, actually. It had about 49 kilos, so hence I was able to get the ride. It was pretty light. And it drew pretty well and got a beautiful run through and ducked through and got up on the inside. So, yeah, it was great to win my first Group 1 for Bart Cummings.
Submariner's angling for the rails now. It's Plus Embassy in front, Crimson Medal coming at it, and Submariner on the fence. Submariner finishes the best along the rails, and he's got up to win.
One horse that's really pivotal in your career and sometimes is a little bit lost is Mannerism. 4 Group 1 wins on her. What does she mean to you?
Oh, she was a real favourite. Such a lovely horse to ride, beautiful nature. Won her maiden on her at Kyneton. Very memorable horse, and gave me my first Caulfield Cup as well. And I just recently rode a winner for Barry Midge Griffiths, the owners. Good that you have those relationships, 30 odd years on.
The Caulfield Cup is famous for lots of reasons. Shane Dye's ride. When I went back and looked at the replay again, how would you rate your ride?
Probably 10 out of 10.
It's all right. It's a beautiful ride on her, isn't it?
It's more remembered for Shane's ride and Vianna Cress's defeat, but I felt like I had to ride her a bit conservatively. She'd come off a defeat in the Caulfield Stakes a week prior, and I think she'd only had 2 1400 metre runs leading into that, so I knew I had to ride her well to win. Wanted to put her asleep during the race, conserve her energy. Just after we'd straightened, I'd sort of saved all the ground and then wanted to come out to the middle of the track in the straight, and didn't realise what he'd done early, taking off early and wide, but he'd sort of shot clear, but I could see him coming back to me, and that's when I really got stuck into manners, and she was able to peg him back.
Across the outside has taken the lead in the Cup now from Mannerism, and then Gathano and Equidity. Viander Cross in front of Mannerism. Viander Cross answering the urgings of Shane Dye ahead in front. Mannerism coming at him. Viander Cross, maybe a nose to Mannerism, who's booted right on the line and made it close. You know,
it's such a fine line sometimes between victory and defeat, and fortunately the photo went our way. When you win one of those big races, it opens a lot of doors up for you, and that certainly did.
And you only had to wait 2 years to get your next one with Paris Lane, another really important horse for you.
Yeah, he was. He was a lovely horse. 4-year-old who'd won a Queensland Derby and was really competitive at weight for age that whole spring, and then got into a Caulfield Cup with a nice weight.
But Paris Lane broke away. He's home. Paris Lane's Cup. 2 lengths Alcove and Tenor, and Paris Lane wins it.
He just had a perfect preparation. He was a perfect horse profile for a race like Caulfield Cup.
Doremus is a little bit of a different style of horse because he was an out-and-out stayer, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. It really well managed by the Freedmans. They identified him the year before and just sort of protected him. I think he won on a 2,000 metre race, Caulfield Cup Day, the year before, and then just raced sparingly that year. Got in with a super lightweight again. I think he had about 51 or 2 kilos. Just got there, but he just got better as he got older too, and just kept improving.
Count Chivers, Boart, Doremus. Doremus coming at Count Chivers. Doremus! Ladies and gentlemen, here's the Caulfield Cup winner, the Foster's Caulfield Cup winner returning. Number 9, Doremus. From the stronghold of the Lee Freedman team. Ridden by Damien Oliver, who takes his 3rd Caulfield Cup.
We'll keep going on the Caulfield Cups. Sky Heights. He was a marvellous horse for Colin Alderson.
Super tough horse, raced up on the pace and just kept going for you. Yeah, he was a very good horse.
Laybeel's raced up 100 out to go to the lead with Sky Heights. Laybeel and Sky Heights are hammer and tongo. Laybeel, Sky Heights to hit the line. Photo. Sky Heights by a nose.
So if we lined up those 4 Caulfield Cup horses together and you had to make a decision, you probably knew this was coming, which one do you think you might swing your leg over?
That's a tough one. I'd probably say just Doremus. Yeah, marginally ahead of probably Paris Lane. I just think Doremus's versatility, his longevity, and yeah, he was a bit of an old favourite too. Yep.
We're talking about favourite horses. One of my favourites from back in the early 90s, telling about how old I am, is Scalacci. When you go back, The Freedmans took a lot of horses to Kyneton, and I think he started his career at Kyneton as well.
I didn't ride him in that race. Darren Beedman rode him, and then I think the next 6 or 7 horses behind him in that race come out and won. Then he ran in a 1400 metre race at Flemington, got beat, and I think I might have been suspended at the time. And then I said to Lee, I don't think this, he's just a sprinter, this horse. So his third start in a race was a 1000 metre race at Sandown. I think he broke the track record. And I said to him, I said, should see this horse with the Lightning, I think he can win it. And he did.
And Scalacci raced up to Street Roughhead and took the lead, and then Noble Lancer. Final card can't go on and wrap around trying to get into it, followed by King Marauding. But Scalacci well clear. Wrap around finishing well with Umatilla on the outside, but the brilliant Scalacci wins it a length and a half.
I've ridden some great sprinters, don't get me wrong, like Testarossa and Falvalon and Apache Cat, Alingi, all those sort of horses. But to do it at your 4th start in a race, your 4th, 5th and 6th start to win a Oakley Plate Lightning and Newmarket.
The grey flash, Scalacci's put a gap in them. Umatilla's finishing quickly on the outside, and then Storaya, but Scalacci wins the magnificent treble.
It's an extraordinary horse, and it was strange because he was a bit of an old cripple as well. He'd live in ice, and he'd trot out like, oh, he's not a good horse. But as soon as he got out on the grass track to gallop, he'd just stride out and just gave you this amazing feel.